Well, the state of Nebraska just made it official. No more child mutilation surgeries, or what trans rights activists call gender-affirming care, under the age of 19. So give it up for the state of Nebraska. So in other words, if you want to cut off your breasts or other parts of your body at 12 years old, you need to get your parents to drive you to California or some other state that will allow you to get it done. Washington State, yeah, is Washington able to do that? Oregon, I'm sure, is probably able to do that. The measure passed the legislature last Friday. Interesting about Nebraska, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from my high school civics classes, I think that Nebraska is the only, maybe I'm wrong, is the only unicameral legislature in all of the United States. Is there another one? Does anyone know? By that? Well, there's not two chambers. There's just one chamber in the Congress. There's not like a House of Representatives and a Senate. There's just one chamber. So it doesn't have to go through the House and then go to the Senate. Oh. There's one chamber. Is there any other? Anyway, I'm just curious about that. Anyway, the measure passed the unicameral legislature last week, and it was just signed by Governor Jim Pillen. Here he is. It's called the Let Them Grow Act, and it was just signed. There he is holding a baby to say, like, let our children grow up. Let our children grow up to be who they will be, without any interference by politics or big pharmaceutical companies who are heaping all sorts of problems onto our children. Here he is after the signing.
LB 574
Go ahead.
Steps towards making sure our kids aren't making harmful decisions, and that they're going to regret for the rest of their life, and that they're duped by outside voices. It's really simple. This bill protects our kids, saves babies. Because of the work of our courageous conservative leaders across our state, I'll be signing this bill to allow our kids to grow and thrive in the state of Nebraska. We all agree our kids are our future, and we never let a kid behind. This lets our kids be kids inside and outside mom's wombs.
So pretty big moment. Then they got a big round of applause for that. But this did not happen without drama. On Friday, people who are in favor of child mutilations held protests at the Nebraska State Capitol building. Here's just some of this, some of the interactions. You can watch this. You can go ahead and play that. So they say bans off all bodies is what they're saying here. Bans off all bodies.
What they're failing to notice is that in all academic research, about 80 to 90% of people with gender dysphoria have it resolved by puberty, by the end of puberty, which means that puberty is usually the cure for gender dysphoria. And so what pharmaceutical and medical biopharmaceutical industries are doing is blocking the cure to gender dysphoria.
And they know this.
By medicalizing a body and making themselves a forever client.
Yeah.
And so, they're taking medicine and they're blocking what is the cure. And yeah, now they've got, and speaking of price gouging, what we just talked about in the other segment, again, medical insurance companies are charging twice what these drugs are worth on the market when they're used for other things such as cancer.
Hioika Mike in our chat says, leave our kids alone, you evil ghouls. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I did a video recently about how on TikTok, clinics that do this gender affirming care are targeting kids and saying you're going to feel better when you're in the right body, like you were born in the wrong body. Like it's just it's sick because they're like literally marketing this to people.
Yeah, they're leeches.
The pharmaceutical industry.
Absolutely. Yes, I want everyone to remember as I'm doing this segment, it's the biopharmaceutical complex is behind this, guys. Follow the money. Follow the money. And
there is no research that shows that medicalizing the body and taking pharmaceuticals and surgery actually cures dysphoria. That dysphoria persists. You just now have a mutilated body, and which is incredibly sad.
So they took to social media. It wasn't just there showing up at the legislature, but a lot of people took to social media to tell us how surgeries for kids would save lives and why you should oppose this bill. Listen.
Are you kidding me? After failing to pass a 6-week abortion ban, Nebraska lawmakers are trying to take a ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth and slap on amendments that would restrict abortion access, all at the last minute. It's unprecedented to take a bill that died and have it come back as an amendment to another bill right before it's supposed to pass. Did I mention that they're doing this without any public input? It's totally how a democracy is supposed to work. And last night during debate, Nebraska senators broke precedent to push this bill forward. If enacted, LB 574 would ban abortion at around 12 weeks of pregnancy and ban life-saving, gender-affirming care for trans youth. These anti-abortion lawmakers are grasping at straws. They're trying to crush our rights and can't even do it in a way that honors the democratic process. Let's get one thing straight. Resurrecting an abortion ban by bundling it into a package of restrictions on trans rights is egregious, cowardly, and pathetic. Banning abortion at any stage of pregnancy denies a person the fundamental right to control their own body. No ban is acceptable. Not now, not ever. Only one senator needs to change their vote to kill this bill. Just one more vote to let Nebraskans keep control over their own bodies. Contact your senator today and ask them to vote no on LB 574.
So, you know, one of the things that he said there that is totally wrong, of course, is that they're voting on this gender-affirming care that's life-saving gender-affirming care.
Yes, again, they don't have data for that.
Right.
It's just another talking point, just like gender-affirming. You know, it's just something that they co-opted as language.
Yeah, this language thing also really infuriates me. And it's an old political playbook. Right, Frank Luntz wrote a book on the politics of language and how effectively using language for so many years, Democrats sucked at it. They were absolutely horrible about using language correctly. Republicans really owned this space, right? They would say things like, we're going to call it the Clean Air Act. But it was really a rollback, of course, of all sorts of environmental protections, right? So it wasn't actually the Clean Air Act. It was the Dirty Air Act. But then you would vote against it. And people would say, look, you know, and they would run the campaign ads. They'd be like, Natali is against the Clean Air Act. But she's like, no, it's actually a Dirty Air Act. So they're calling it gender-affirming care. And so you see all of the news articles use that tagline. They use that language, gender-affirming care. What they should just replace it with is child mutilation.
Well, or just if we want to be a little bit less antagonistic, Clayton,
That's not my nature.
You could just call it sex change for children. Is everybody on board with sex change for children? Because when you say it like that, nobody reasonably would want that. Sex change for children.
Yeah, I think child mutilation is more accurate because you're literally going under the knife or you're giving them some sort of hormonal...
Well, they're not always going under the knife. And I think a large part of them don't.
But would you still call it mutilation?
Terrifying.
Would we still call it mutilation? Let us know in the chat if they're the
let's
hormone
also
blockers.
say that it's, you know, that even if there's no surgery involved and your child says, okay, but I am the opposite gender than the one my chromosomal DNA tells you, right? And so then I'm going to spend all of my time trying to pass as this other gender, that's going to lead to a lifetime of anxiety. And it is generally not good for any of us, not you, not me, to hyper focus on how I am perceived in the world. That is an anxietizing place to be. I mean, as a parent, I think most of us would rather raise our kids to say, people take me as I am. I don't care if you don't like my hair. I don't care if you don't like my sweater. That's how I'm going to be. But no, we're saying to them, step into this lifestyle of passing. They will never be able to then be contributing adults in other meaningful ways if they are so hyper-focused on this.
Yeah. So,
I look at it as internal and external mutilation. I mean, the puberty blockers are doing it internally and the surgeries are doing it externally. It's all changing kids from what they are to something they will never be.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat saying it is mutilation. Others are saying it's child torture. You brought up a great point earlier tonight over dinner. We were talking about this. Actually, as we were cleaning the dishes, we weren't talking about this in front of the kids. But the idea that it is child abuse in many ways.
Well, what I was talking about was how there's a man who was breastfeeding his baby because his wife had the baby, and then he decided he was a transgender woman, and he wanted to try to feed the baby. So he pumped himself so full of hormones and started to produce some colostrum. Now, if you've ever nursed a baby, I've nursed 3, you know that colostrum is what comes before your milk. There's no nutrition in it, and a baby can't thrive on that. Furthermore, when a baby suckles, they are doing something that's like it burns a lot of calories. So I had my 3rd child had a problem latching because she had this tongue problem that we needed to get worked out. So as she was nursing, she was burning more calories to nurse than she was getting from me because she was working too hard to get her milk. So she couldn't hit her birth weight for 3 weeks. She was still at birth weight. She had not come. She was not gaining weight, and this was a problem. And the doctor said, don't even give her a pacifier, because if she's sucking on that, she's going to keep losing weight until we fix this tongue tie issue. So if you think of putting a newborn infant on a male chest, they're working hard to get their milk. That's exercise for them. And the baby's only getting colostrum. That's really stinking confusing for a baby. And I think that that's abusive. That is child abuse to a baby, because they're nursing and not getting nutrition. When the mom is sitting right there with all the milk, that's cruel.
It's cruel. It's child abuse. And the dude, the father who now thinks he's a woman, the only reason like they're doing it is to affirm his insecurities in life, right? So you're basically abusing the child so that he can go around dressing up as a woman. Am I wrong?
Isn't that child also getting an influx of those hormones? If they're like jamming in their body, isn't there going to be like a ton extra? So that child is getting it.
Yes.
Yeah. And why
add on
are
the
we
layer.
allowing this?
How many layers of child abuse can you get, right? You're like literally depriving them of nutrition, and you're pumping them full of the same hormones that this dude is taking in order to have breasts. Like, what kind of clown world are we living in right now? You want to see a society in decline? Just look around. This is crazy. So, I
mean, if you've ever nursed a baby and you know what a conversation that is between you and the baby actually is telling you what it needs through the enzymes in its saliva. You are in a conversation with your child. And then to think that I would ever let someone else put my baby on their nipple, even if they weren't a man, I can't, as a mother, I can't abide even the thought of this. I'm so angry about it.
So for around 2 minutes and 40 seconds on Friday, this was something that is absolutely jaw-dropping to watch. So I'm going to show you a piece of video now. So this was during the debate in the Nebraska legislature. This is Nebraska State Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, a Democrat. Shocking. Repeated this over and over and over again for 2 minutes. Like, she had the floor. She used her time to make this statement. And I want to unpack something. We're going to watch her make this statement. Here's Michaela Cavanaugh about transgender people being here. Watch.
Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. That's what they're saying out there. They're standing in a circle in the rotunda saying that over and over again. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people.
I don't like that song.
I think she needs to say I.
There's a lot of songs I like.
Belong here. I love trans people. I need trans people, because like she's saying we, and I think there's probably some people that disagree.
Oh my God. So in this situation, you know, yeah, clearly, as people are saying in the chat, like, oh my God, oh my God. Anyway, in this situation though, she stands up and uses her total time in this. I always want to follow the money when I see something like this. So I did. Who's giving her the money for this campaign? Who's giving her the money to stand up here and do this? So I looked into it. And I wanted to go through her finances, and so I decided to. Turns out she gets tens of thousands of dollars from the healthcare industry. I know that's shocking to you, including Planned Parenthood Advocates of Nebraska. Now, Planned Parenthood Advocates of Nebraska, I learned, is a subsidiary of a more umbrella organization for Planned Parenthood in the Midwest, which gets millions of dollars, by the way, millions of dollars from you, the taxpayers.
And are one of the largest distributors of synthetic hormones.
Exactly. So she's getting money directly from the people, the pill pushers. She's getting money directly from the healthcare industry. So that's the website. Here she is. Here, and you want to track the money yourself, you can do this. You can go right to the website here, and I'll have links to this in the description below if you want to go there. And you can read all about Michaela Cavanaugh's finances, and you can see the itemized contributions, the in-state, out-of-state, unknown state, party committee money, all the way down the line, the amount of money that she gets from trial attorneys, which is a lot of money she gets from trial attorneys, as well as the healthcare industry. And if you go to Planned Parenthood's website, it goes both ways. So you can go to their website, the Planned Parenthood website of Nebraska. This is again a subsidiary of the Midwest Planned Parenthood conglomerate or whatever. They feature her prominently on their website as one of the top people that they endorse. There she is in red, right there on their website under the People We Endorse section, right on Planned Parenthood's website. We endorse her. And if you read the mission statement from Planned Parenthood on the Planned Parenthood of Nebraska website, their mission statement as an organization, a 501c4 organization, mobilizes supporters of all parties to protect, promote, and expand access to sexual and reproductive health care and fact-based, medically accurate sexuality education. And if you do a deeper dive into this, you can read, this is fascinating. This is on Planned Parenthood's website. All people have a right to high-quality, non-judgmental, affordable health care, including the full range of sexual and reproductive health care. Access to family planning improves people's lives. Education is the foundation of a healthy community. Abortion must remain safe, legal, and accessible. And here at the bottom, efforts to protect and expand access to the ballot box, democracy, reform, LGBTQ+ equity, and safety for Black and brown communities, regardless of immigration status, and they're a top priority. They also talk about how this care for sexual health and education should be also taken care of by the government. And Nebraskans deserve affordable birth control, access to information to decide if and when and how they will become parents, as well as how they are used and for sexual, what's the word I'm looking for? Gender-affirming care. Mm-hmm. You know, and what you do to go, you know, get access to gender-affirming care or, you know,
the medicalization of a trans body.
Right. So if you want to become trans, like this is the mission statement. This is the support. So she's taking money directly from these people.
And also, if she had anything like, that's just going to irritate people, what she did. If she had anything substantive to add, like to say, okay, these are why we should accept it. This is why gender affirming care is important. And at least state something that is educational to get people on board, because what she just did does nothing.
No, it doesn't. And it ignores these sort of deeper issues of the medicalization, the continued medicalization of a body. And, you know, then we sort of have these things, like I just mentioned, of like men thinking they should breastfeed a baby. Now I see in the chat these comments saying not all women can nurse. Fine. All men can't nurse.
Right.
I'm comfortable saying that, right? I know that not all women can nurse. So you can give a baby a bottle. You should not be having a baby frustrated. It's so frustrating for
Give him to a man. Give him to a man who's pumped full of hormones so they can get all sorts of drugs.
You can
in their
even
body.
wear those little booby hanger things if you really want the experience, but you should not be having a baby trying to latch to a real nipple and trying to actually get milk that is synthetically produced from hormones.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.